All right, today we're jumping into the incredible story of Saint Gaspar del Bufalo. We're calling this one The Blood That Liberates.
You know, there's this saying, there are men who preach with words and others who preach with chains. Wow. Kind of makes you stop and think, right? It's a pretty intense idea, and honestly, it's the perfect way to kick off the story we're getting into today.
And that quote leads us straight to this epic showdown, you could say. We've got a priest and an empire. So picture this, one man caught in a classic struggle between loyalty to a powerful ruler and fidelity to his God.
So let's set the scene. Saint Gaspar del Bufalo is born in Rome, 1786. Now, this isn't a peaceful time. Europe is basically on fire with war and revolution. And who's at the center of it all? Napoleon. He comes along and issues this massive demand to every single priest. You will swear an oath of loyalty to me and my empire. No exceptions.
So you can imagine the pressure, right? But when it's Gaspar's turn, his answer is just so clear and so powerful. I cannot, sir. I belong to Christ. Boom. That's it. With just a few words, he basically drew a line in the sand and, well, sealed his own fate. And you know, a refusal like that is going to have consequences. That brings us to the price of conviction. And this is where things get really interesting, because we're going to see how actual physical chains can somehow become a symbol of total spiritual freedom. It's a wild idea.
So what was the price he paid for saying no? 4. Just 4. 4 years. That's how long he was thrown in prison. Just let that sink in for a second. 4 years of his life gone.
But, and this is the incredible part, the story doesn't end there, in that prison cell. Not at all. In a lot of ways, this is where it really begins, because even in the darkness of that cell, he didn't lose his light.
So you gotta wonder, how did he do it? How did he keep that flame going? Well, he didn't get angry. He didn't fight back in that way. He just prayed. He actually forgave the people who locked him up. They say his heart burned brighter than the torches his jailers carried. That prison cell, it wasn't just a punishment. It became the very place that forged his faith.
And this whole experience just perfectly sets up our next idea, freedom inside a cell. Because what he found was something huge. He realized that true freedom, well, it has nothing to do with your body being able to walk around. It's all about the soul.
So, what was fueling him through all this? It really came down to this one Latin phrase he held on to, in sanguine tuo salus. It means, in your blood, there is salvation. Now for him, this wasn't just some old religious saying. The blood of Christ was everything. It was the ultimate symbol of sacrifice, of a second chance, of a love so powerful it could get you through anything. This was his rock. This is what held him together.
Okay, so when he finally gets out of prison, that freedom he discovered in his soul, it wasn't something he could just keep to himself. He had to share it. So his time in jail wasn't just some bad memory he tried to forget. Nope, it became the launch pad for his life's work as the apostle of the blood. That conviction he found in chains, it was about to become his mission.
And here's what's just mind-blowing. After 4 years of being locked up for no good reason, what's his first move? Is he bitter? Does he want revenge? Not a chance. His focus was crystal clear. He was on a mission of redemption. He didn't seek payback. He sought souls.
And he didn't just wing it either. He gave this mission a real structure. So in 1815, he starts this new group, the Missionaries of the Precious Blood. It was a whole religious order with one job: travel around and spread this powerful message of redemption and forgiveness.
And their approach? It was actually pretty simple, but man was it effective. They'd go from village to village, and Gaspar would preach, but his voice, it wasn't just words. You could hear the suffering he'd been through, but you could also hear this incredible love. The whole point was to get through to anyone, to soften even the toughest, most cynical hearts out there.
And it worked. This wasn't just talk. There's this one amazing story you hear about him. He goes and preaches to a group of actual thieves, right? A whole gang of them. And the very next day, they walk up to the altar and just lay down their weapons. I mean, can you imagine? A total 180, all because of what he had to say.
So what's the takeaway for us today? What can we learn from a life lived with that kind of intense conviction? Well, that brings us to our final big idea, a faith that shines. We're going to look at the timeless lesson his life offers, especially, and this is key, for a world that's always asking us to compromise. If there's one thing Gaspar's story shows us, it's this. Faith isn't really about being comfortable. It's not about taking the easy road. It's about courage. It's about having the guts to stick to what you believe in, no matter what it costs you.
And that leads to this really cool, kind of backward idea, this paradox at the center of his whole life. He found that real, total freedom, it doesn't come from fighting for what you want all the time. It comes from surrendering to something bigger than yourself.
You could boil down everything he believed into this one thought he had. The blood of Christ is the price of our love. It's this idea that real love isn't easy. It's defined by what you're willing to give up, what you're willing to sacrifice.
So let's just recap his crazy journey real quick. He's born in 1786. He gets thrown in jail for his beliefs. But does he come out broken? Nope. He comes out fired up, starts his own order, and spends the rest of his life on that mission until he dies in 1837. Just an amazing legacy, and it all started with one man saying no.
And really, it all circles back to that one core belief, that phrase that was his North Star, in sanguine salus, in your blood there is salvation.
His life just proves it. That a faith that's been through the ringer, a faith that bleeds, it doesn't get weaker. It actually shines brighter than any other.
So we'll leave you with this to think about, something inspired by his incredible story. We all live in a world that's constantly pushing us to compromise. So the question is, what's the price of your conviction? Something to chew on. Thanks for listening.